All right, guys, welcome to Settle for Three. Joey, Cameron, Evan, we got a hefty one for you. We are talking about the NFL draft, which is coming up later this week. And this is one of the great times on the NFL calendar, and it comes in the offseason. Cameron, would you say the NFL does a really good job of promoting the draft?
Better than any other sport in the world.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And Evan, it's kind of funny how a lot of fans don't even know half the time who their team drafted. They're just out there cheering. If it's not one of the top guys, if it's Joe Thomas out of Central Michigan Center, these fans don't know. They're just cheering.
They don't care. No, they really don't. They see new blood. They hope for better outcomes
Yeah.
for the most part, considering especially when you're towards the beginning of the draft, it means your team didn't do very well. So they're excited for whatever they got.
Yeah, and we're excited. We got a lot to talk about today. Here's the rundown. We're going to go through first round scenarios, and these are rumors or reports that I've seen, and you guys are basically going to tell me, yeah, this could happen, or no, this is BS. That's never going to happen. Then the chunk of our conversation today is going to be our most interesting prospects. Each of us gave a list of 10 players. I whittled down all our common players down to five. And so we're going to go one through five through the most interesting prospects and say what ideal team they should be on and drafted by. And then finally, we're going to end tonight. Instead of last word, we're going to do burning draft questions. And this is, we're each going to pick a team and we're each going to say, this is the question this team needs to answer during the upcoming draft. So let's go ahead. And before we can answer any of these questions, we got to show you how the first round's going to shake up. Here's a look at it. Titans, Browns, Giants, Patriots, Jaguars are the top five. And you can see all the way to 32. The Chiefs and the Eagles are Super Bowl matchup this year. They're 31 and 32. So real quickly for each of you, Cam, we'll start with you. What's your takeaway just looking at how this first round shapes out?
You had a comment in our last video that there's doesn't appear to be as much perennial talent in this draft as in some others. The bad teams, I don't know if this draft is going to be the difference in them becoming great or taking a significant step in the right direction. I really think this is a big year for free agency.
I agree with most of what Cameron said, but here's the thing. I think it's going to be a really big step for certain teams. And for others, it's not going to make that much of a difference. And my biggest takeaway here is why are the Jets relying on luck here? They really should have tried to trade up as high as possible to get a really good quarterback because Justin Fields is probably not going to be that guy here in the next couple of years for them. They should have tried to trade up to get a franchise quarterback that they could mold into whatever they needed to do.
For me, I think there's going to be a lot of trades. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of great talent at the top of this draft. Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, Abdul Carter, Galen Walker, Tyler Warren. But I don't know that there's that much out of that in the first round. I think there's a lot of talent in the middle rounds. So look to see a lot of teams trade down and collect assets. I think there's a lot of talent in those middle rounds. Also, only two QBs are going to go in the first round. And a quick little hot take for you that I will explain later. There is a very slim chance, a non-zero chance, that only one quarterback is taken in the first round. I'll explain what I mean and why there is the tiniest of possibilities that that happens coming up. Let's go ahead and get to some draft day scenarios. And we got three of them. And it's three rumors or reports that I've seen. And I want you guys to tell me, and I'll chime in too, if yeah, I could see this happening, or this is just really ridiculous. Why are we talking about it? So let's go to the first one, and it involves a team with the number one pick, the Tennessee Titans. So this scenario, the Titans do not draft a QB at number one. Cameron.
I think the Titans should straight up trade their pick away to the number three pick. Number three pick being the New York Giants, who also need a quarterback. I think Giants should actually go ahead and try and trade up for Cam Ward. Number two is going to be the Browns. Browns do need a quarterback. They're not really looking for, I don't think, defensive players. I think the Titans should trade down specifically for Abdul Carter.
So follow up for you. If the Titans do
Yes.
make the pick, do you agree that they're taking Cam Ward? If they make the pick.
If they make the pick and don't pick Cam Ward, I would be shocked.
Okay. Evan?
Yeah, they're going to pick Cam Ward, and he's going to be there for years. I don't see. any reason why they are not going to draft a quarterback at number 1, being Cam Ward.
All right. Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think they're Cam Ward or bust. I don't think there's any interest in Shador for them. I personally also think that they should trade back. I don't know that they are set on Cam Ward. You really haven't heard much about him. He's not even really talked about that much. It's just kind of the Titans are going to take him. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure about him. I'm sure he's a great, talented prospect. We've seen what he can do in college, but it's just a little unnerving that there's not a lot of excitement or buildup about this guy. So we'll see what they could do. I could see them trading down possibly. Let's go to scenario number 2. And this is a fun one for me. Running back Ashton Jeanty is a top 5 pick. Evan, why don't you start us off here?
All right. I had a lot of stuff with this. To start it off, I do not think he's going to be a top 5 pick. And here's the reasons. Number 1, you got Tennessee. They need a quarterback. Chubb is probably going to re-sign with the Browns. Giants also need a quarterback. Patriots spent way too much money in free agency, and they need help on both sides of their offensive and defensive line. And Jacksonville needs way too much help on defense. So really, the only place for Ashton Jeanty to go as far up as possible is to the Raiders, and I think that's exactly where he's going to go.
Family.
I don't even think he's the first running back taken off the board. I think that would be a mistake. And I really like Ashton Jeanty. I think Dylan Sampson is going to go probably before he does.
What world are you living in?
That's not a knock on Sampson. He's a great
athlete,
but that's not going to happen.
It's the way that Sampson's able to run and blow up the pocket. The problem that I have with Jeanty, his size, I don't know how well it's going to translate that in the level of talent to the NFL. Regardless, even if the conversation is just on the top 5 picks, I don't think we're going to see a running back go on the top 5, period.
Can I just clarify? It's not should he go in the top. It's will he.
He will not go in the top 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I also do not think he will go in the top 5, but I think there's a possibility he could. And the only team I see that could do that is Jacksonville. You pair him with Trevor Lawrence. Now, they already have Travis Etienne, and then they have someone else. Who did I have in my notes?
The Tank Bigsby?
Yeah, they have Tank Bigsby from Auburn. And Etienne's a good guy. They're both good backs, but they're not superstar backs. And I think if Jacksonville wants to take a big swing, they could take Jeanty and pair him with Lawrence, and you have a 1-2 punch. But I really don't think that happens. I absolutely think he's going 6th to the Raiders. And Vegas has him as the favorite there at -140. Think about this: you pair him with Brock Bowers and Geno Smith. That's a pretty good offensive, trio right there. Not the best in the NFL by means, but it's a pretty good one. So I think Vegas at 6 is the earliest he will go. But let's get Jeanty credit because he has skyrocketed up the draft board. Allegedly, he really impressed teams in his meetings after the combine. So I think this guy is on a lot of people's draft boards very high, and I would be shocked if he's not taken in the top 10. Let's move on. Scenario number 3. Shedeur Sanders falls out of the top 10. Cameron.
I do think that Shedeur will probably be taken in the top 10, specifically because the Saints are now looking for a quarterback. Mm-hmm. I think that might be the right fit for him. I don't really have anything else. I just think that's a good fit.
Evan.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to say on that. New Orleans, they probably, even if they think they're going to have their starters back, they need a contingency plan. And Shedeur Sanders, even if he's not going to start, he makes a really great trade in the near future.
And I do think he's better than what a lot of people are kind of reporting on. I think there's a lot of flack just because of who his dad is with the Colorado program. Mm-hmm. Shedeur in college was able to help his team excel. I understand that, there was another player on that team that won the Heisman, but Shador did have a couple of 1,000 yards of receivers and did play well at the quarterback position. He is a good quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he's drafted 9 by the Saints. I think that's the furthest he'll drop. Derek Carr can miss the entire season with a shoulder injury. But there's a chance the Browns could take him at 2 as well. It doesn't look like Deshaun Watson will play this season. He just had surgery after re-rupturing his Achilles. And plus, when he suited up, he was pretty bad for them. So I don't know that he's going to wear a Browns jersey ever again. The Giants just signed Russell Wilson. I guess there's a situation where they could draft Sanders at 3 and have him sit behind Wilson. I just don't see that happening. I think the Saints is the farthest he'll fall. There could be a situation where the Saints pass on him, and then I think the Steelers trade up and grab him because the Steelers need a quarterback. They're still waiting to hear from Aaron Rodgers. That's the situation. The Steelers right now are drafting at 21. He's not going to make it to 21, but I think we're all in agreement he's going in the top 10. So let's move on to our main segment today, our most interesting draft prospects. And like I said at the beginning, we each came up with 10 players. I whittled them down based on how we ranked them to the top 5. And so these are our top 5 most interesting players. And what we're each going to do is just talk about why they're interesting to us and then say, this is the team I think will be most ideal for them. So we're going to start off first with Travis Hunter. And does it get more interesting than this guy? I mean, a legit dual threat prospect that won the Heisman, amazing talent. I got a lot to say, but Evan, I'm gonna start with your thoughts on him.
So I'm going to preface this with, if Travis Hunter is drafted as a cornerback, his dream scenario would be the Bengals. They really need a cornerback. It's not going to happen.
That's a really big
problem. It's an absolute dream scenario.
They would have to trade up.
Exactly. They would have to trade up a lot. They need some help on the defense, but specifically that cornerback position. And if they can fill out their defense, the Bengals are probably the most poised team to win a Super Bowl. So if all of that happens in a magical realm, then he's probably going to be the first person drafted in this class to win a Super Bowl. But it won't happen.
No, that would take a lot to trade up. Cam, what do you think?
See, it's such a hard one because I don't know which one of the top, 10 or even 15 teams are really going to prioritize his talents. He's such a unique talent that he's a top 5 on both sides of the ball, but I don't know for sure that he is number 1 on either side either. He is an unbelievable talent, though. I think objectively, just looking, at the draft, and this is going to be a crazy one, I think that the 49ers taking him and trying to put him in a Kyle Shanahan style team could be really compelling. What he was able to do with Justek, or however you pronounce the prior fullback, I think he could be leveraged in a similar manner, where he could really be seen on both sides of the ball and really excel on the field in general.
Man, 49ers are going to have to trade up for him too.
Yeah,
I think Hunter can absolutely play both sides of the ball. That's what makes him most interesting to me. He actually said at the combine that he would rather give up football than be limited to one of those positions only. So you are definitely going to see him suit up on both sides of the ball. Now, saying that, I think he's a lockdown corner and Pro Bowl pretty fast in the NFL. And I think on offense, you're going to see 1 to 3 packages a game where he takes the field. Or, in the number 3 slot, probably, maybe number 2. I don't know that he's a number 1. But saying that, the Cleveland Browns think he's a number 1 because they said they think he's a receiver first. And I actually think he goes number 2 to Cleveland. But his ideal spot for me is the Giants at 3 overall because, guys, New York is a town for stars. And Hunter is going to be a star. And imagine him being a lockdown corner for that secondary, which was okay but not great last year. But then he lines up on offense next to Malik Neighbors, who is an amazing receiver. There would be no pressure on him. And so you could put him out there and he could be locked down on corner and get his touches on offense next to Malik and probably get a lot more touches because Malik would be doubled. But I think the Giants should draft him if he's there.
Can I just preface this?
Yeah.
If Travis Hunter's available, you should probably take him.
Yeah.
From almost every team. I can think of very few teams in the top 10 picks that could not use him in one way or another.
I mean, if I were the Titans GM, I would take him. But
Absolutely.
I get why they're going to take a
Ooh,
QB.
that's a take.
I mean, like I said, what have you heard about Cam Ward? You don't even
I've
hear
actually
about him.
heard a lot, and I really like Cam Ward. I mean, the way that he was able to excel in an offense that previously wasn't that great is pretty amazing. And
Right.
Restrepo has never stood off the page. How much have you heard about Restrepo as leading receiver?
Yeah.
The way that he sat out when he broke a record, that really spoke some volumes. But
I mean, from a
whatever.
Nico supporter, that means a lot.
He sat out in the spring game, not national game.
Yeah. I mean, Ward has a ton of talent. I just don't know about him. Let's move on to a guy that we know a lot about. That's Ashton Genty, running back out of Boise State. I think this guy is going to be a star in the league. And do you agree with me? What do you think?
I really like Genty. It really comes down to the talent that he had to face off against in college and how well that is going to translate to the NFL. Defenders are nothing like they were in the Mountain West Conference once you're at this level. For me personally, I hope that he has a very long and great career. He's one of the most agile running backs that we've seen in a long time, and he's really able to come off the ball strong. Uh, I'll be honest, I don't even have an area or place that I'm really anticipating he goes. I don't think he's going to get taken as high as 6.
Cameron, the last part you say he's not going to get taken that high. That's just, I mean, it's almost a foregone conclusion. Is the thing. So okay, I'll just preface this with because once I get my explanation, it's not going to matter anyways. His dream scenario is to go to the Raiders, where he is probably going to go, because Joey, to your point earlier, you get Brock Bowers over the middle, that receiving game is going to be on point. Brock Bowers set so many records last year for rookies in the tight end space. Brock Bowers is a huge dude that is just running into people and wearing down that defense. If you start running the ball with Ashton Genty, you're also going to start wearing down that defense. That is such a good combo that I don't think we've really seen a whole lot of, a tight end running back combo that can really wear down a defense, run out that clock, and just take it the full length of the field, 1 inch at a time. That's a dream scenario for him. He's going to go to the Raiders. I don't know what Cameron is talking about, but yeah, that's a dream scenario.
Look at what Pete Carroll did with Marshawn Lynch. You don't think him and Chip Kelly running that offense can find a way to make Genty successful? I mean, the Raiders are such a perfect spot for him. It's unreal.
It's so good.
I would be absolutely shocked. And they, like I said, I think Jacksonville could be a dark horse, but I really think it's the Raiders. And what you guys maybe haven't thought about is Genty didn't get a lot of opportunities in the pass game, but he can be in the pass game. I think 1 year he had 43 receptions. Last year he had 23. He's just asked to run the ball so much that there was never an opportunity to throw him the ball. But this guy has allegedly excelled in all of his team meetings and has skyrocketed up the draft board, not for his play in the field, but for how he's handled himself when talking to teams during this draft process. So that says a lot about him and what he knows about the game. I think he's going to be really good. And one more thing about him, the Saquon Barkley effect isn't hurting him. It's definitely helping him. And teams have seen what Saquon Barkley did for the Eagles, and you're going to see a resurgence of the running back in this draft. I don't know in what order or who's going to be drafted where, but you're going to see a resurgence of the running back over the next few years thanks to Saquon Barkley.
I 1,000% agree with you on the running back coming back is like one of the most important positions on the field.
Yeah. And now, granted, Saquon Barkley's one of one. But
not too many guys can do reverse hurdles.
Yeah, he's proven that you can win a Super Bowl with your number one option being a running back. And he was amazing. So let's move on to another guy, Fedor Sanders. Very interesting guy, being the son of Deion Sanders. You're always going to be interesting. Cam, we'll start with you. What do you think about Shedeur? What makes him interesting to you, and where do you see him fitting in?
Colorado was not a program that has been of any relevance during our lifetimes. I know that
Mhm.
there were times back in the early mid 90s where they were reputable, but frankly, I don't remember any of those. Colorado, for him to be as good as he was, and yes, I understand that they didn't go to the playoffs and that they went a couple of night or what was it 6-6 and then 9-3 over the course of 2 seasons. They were good. And they were primarily good because they had a quarterback that they could trust. And yes, they did have an excellent Travis Hunter playing two ways on the field. But at the end of the day, it is going to come down to the skill and the looks that a quarterback is able to make downfield in order to get a receiver open. To use an Alabama reference, Devontae Smith was excellent and won the Heisman. But if we all remember, Mac Jones was also at the ceremony. It takes a quarterback to make those receivers look great.
Yeah.
And the way that Shador is able to buy time, the way that he can sit back in the pocket, and the way that he is used to the media always being in his face, I really think will play very well just to any team that takes him. I think it's a mistake that he doesn't go higher, well into the top 10, even top 5. I think there's a good argument for.
What team would be a good fit for him?
If I had to go on a whim and I had the Titans trading down, but the Titans aren't going to take them, I really hope that the Browns do not pick him. For me personally, if he goes as late as the Saints, I'd love to see him go to the Saints. I think that's an excellent pick. I know we already discussed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be interesting. And another crazy scenario is what if the Titans trade down, Cam Ward gets taken off the field, and then the Browns don't pick him? Do the Titans then choose him as the quarterback? There's a couple of unique circumstances there to look at.
Yeah, Evan.
Yeah. Everybody said so much about Colorado and primetime. Nobody has ever really spoken poorly about his players and their talent. Shador is the real deal. And I think the Saints, assuming, especially if Brock Purdy is going to be out next year, which all signs are starting to point that way, I think that's going to be the best spot for him. If Brock Purdy does play,
Derek Carr.
then I'm sorry, Derek Carr.
Derek Carr.
Yeah, I know. I've got him on the brain with another player that we're going to talk about. Sorry, Derek Carr. If Derek Carr does play, then I think you got another year before you even see him on the field, trying to get quote unquote mentored, which I don't think is going to sit well with Shador. But with all signs pointing to him not playing, I think Shador going to New Orleans is going to be a really, really great spot for him. He's got all the weapons that he needs over there.
And, like we said earlier, New Orleans was bad last year because almost their entire team was injured. I mean, they were playing no-name scrubs at the end of the season. They have a lot of talent, and they have a new coach, and I think he'd be a good fit for them. But one thing you guys didn't mention, Shedeur Sanders is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college football history. I mean, if you just look at the numbers, it's true. He might be the most accurate. I'm not sure on that, but he was definitely number one last year in FBS. He single-handedly kept, the Buffaloes in games that they may have not had business being in with his big plays. There is a lot of concern about his attitude among scouts and front office personnel. And there was a report that came out this past week that some teams view him as arrogant, which isn't necessarily a bad quality for a quarterback, or at least extreme confidence isn't a bad, quality. Arrogance maybe is. Those same scouts also said they have a hard time believing he's a first round talent. And that's what I was saying earlier. It's a non-zero chance that he doesn't go in the first rounds. But there's a lot of people out there that think he's overhyped. And
there are so many narratives, especially around top tier talent that does have emotional, any kind of emotion behind them, that it's so unique. I mean, you can go back and look at so many of these guys that ended up getting drafted. We can use Baker Mayfield as an example. He was supposed to be the savior for the Browns. But what a lot of people questioned was his emotion, and that was actually one of the big reasons he was taken. I think it's such a plus when it does work out.
Yeah, and one thing that's weird about Shedeur, he's incredibly athletic, but he's shown almost no interest in getting outside the pocket and being mobile. He's had negative rushing yards in 3 of his 4 seasons, which is incredible. He was sacked a lot, but one of the knocks on him is that he'd rather take a sack than throw the ball away, and we saw that happen a lot. I think the Saints at 9 is a great spot for all the reasons we talked about. You got Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Taysom Hill. All those guys dealt with injuries last year. If they're back, the Saints could easily win the NFC South and make the playoffs. I think a dark horse is also the Steelers at number 21. But like I said, I think they'll have to trade up to
Yeah.
get Shador.
Now, can I just say this? I would
Yeah.
love to see the Steelers pick him up. I
Yeah.
think that would be one of the most entertaining teams ever.
I think
You
they'd be a
combine the
good team.
Steelers, yeah, you combine the Steelers defense historically with Shadur Sanders and his athleticism on the offensive side,
Mhm.
and someone to really coach him up to tell him, hey, take a couple chances, throw the ball out or try and run it around. I think that would be a really, really good team.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Let's move on to number 4 on our list. Oregon quarterback Dylan Gabriel, who's also played for, it seems like, every other team in the FBS, UCF and Oklahoma too. And this guy's interesting because he's not getting a lot of love, but Evan, statistically, he's the most productive quarterback in college football history.
I think Dylan Gabriel is probably the most underrated player in the draft. He's projected to go second, maybe third round. And I think that is such a big mistake. He's a real pro style quarterback, but he's athletic enough to get it or get out of the pocket. I watched him in enough games last year where the pocket collapsed. People were chasing after him, and he extended the play and made a really big play. Now, for him, there is some growth to be done, but probably not that much. He's a leader in the locker room. His poise is so amazing. And I'm a big Dylan Gabriel fan. The best place for him is probably the 49ers. And this is why I had Brock Purdy on the brain. Because you got Brock Purdy and who else is over there? Oh,
Mac contract year.
And Mac Jones over there. Brock Purdy had a really amazing year with the 49ers. And then he had last year. Mac Jones, let's just be honest, he's Mac Jones. That is the best place for Dylan Gabriel to go because that is the place where he can actually have a chance to fight for a spot. Probably not the starting spot at first, but he can start working his way up a depth chart at the 49ers more than probably any other team. I wouldn't be surprised if he ever got drafted there 2 to 3 years down the line if he was the starting quarterback.
Oh, Brock Purdy, I think he's a really, really good quarterback. You don't lead your team to the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship by not being at least serviceable in some way or another. He's been really good for the most part. I just think fair or not fair, there's that knock on him with being drafted where he was drafted, and that's never going to get out of people's heads. And it's hard to hand this guy $300 million when he was literally passed on by everyone in the league up until the last pick. And there's a part of you that says, is he really that good, or is he good because of the system he's in? That's may totally not be fair to him, but anyways, that's what I think about Brock Purdy. Cameron, what do you got on Dylan?
I think Dylan Gabriel, Evan hit on it, is probably the most draft-ready quarterback that there is. It is crazy to see people expecting him to go in the second or third round and looking at him as a potential reach even for the first or maybe even early second. But I think he's an excellent quarterback. Another thing that we can look at is how Oregon quarterbacks have actually translated to the NFL. We can look at the most recent example being Bo Nix. I think that Oregon style of offense, there's a lot of quick reads. There's a lot of looks around. And then there's the occasional deep shot. It worked out really well for Bo Nix and being able to translate to that next level with the Broncos. I think it could translate really well for another team too. As far as where I think he could end up, one of the teams that I think would be well suited for him, and this sucks to say, is the Miami Dolphins. I think Tua is kind of on the back half, if nothing else due to injury, of what his great career was supposed to be. I think you have to be looking at what the future looks like And while he may not be quite the same gunslinger that Tua is, I think a lot of the good reads going short, medium, and long range down the field are going to be a lot better coming out of Dylan Gabriel's hands.
Oh, let me read you guys what NFL.com said about Gabriel. They said he is an older and smaller QB prospect, but he offers a tremendous amount of game experience and productivity. And I think that is as simple and as accurate as it gets. FBS record with 188 career touchdowns, 63 career starts at QB. You don't get more experience than that. He is undersized, and we know, fair or not, how much trouble undersized quarterbacks have in this league. Look at Bryce Young. I think Gabriel has elite backup QB written all over him, which is why I think he actually falls to round 4 or 5. And my ideal spot, Kim, like you said, is the Dolphins. They have 2 picks in the 4th round, 2 picks in the 5th round, and they have 11 picks overall. They need an insurance policy for Tua Tagovailoa, who had his 3rd concussion last season. He's had 3 in his career. Now, Tua says he's not giving up on his career. Zach Wilson is the backup there. Zach Wilson doesn't scare anyone. It would be such a low pressure situation for Gabriel to either sit behind Tua or compete with Zach Wilson for the 1 spot if Tua gets injured. And you're throwing a Tyreek Hill. How great is and Waddle. That's awesome. And it's low risk for the Dolphins because it's a mid-round pick. So I really like the Dolphins for him. So let's move on to our 5th guy. This guy has been hailed as the next great tight end before he's even taken the field. Tyler Warren out of Penn State. Amazing prospect. And he's described by NFL scouts as good as it gets as a prospect at the tight end position. Kim, why don't you start?
I mean, I'm just going to make this easy. What team doesn't want or need a great tight end? I don't think there's a single team that would pass up on that. Sorry?
The Raiders.
Yeah, okay, the Raiders with Bowers. But if we leave them out, hey, imagine having
if they
2.
drafted him.
Patriots did it. RIP to one of them, but the Patriots did it. Sometimes it can excel. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe at pick number 6, the Raiders end up taking another tight end, and you quite literally can't stop them, and it doesn't matter what running back they draft. See? And now I've resolved the whole Ashton Jeanty issue.
Where do you like Warren going to?
If I was taking my pick, and this is really hard because I don't know that he's going to make it past the top 10. I think the Bears could be a compelling option. Try and give Caleb Williams an option to go down the field. I mean, really, I think that's the best advice I have.
I actually really like the Bears for that. That's not my pick, but I think that's a really good pick. Tyler Warren, he averaged almost 12 yards a catch last year for over 1,200 yards. Now, the one team that just got rid of their Hall of Famer at some point, tight end, Evan Ingram, is the Jaguars.
Yep.
They've got to have a really good tight end come in. It's a team that knows how to use that position the way that Tyler Warren needs to be used. Mm-hmm. So I think that's an optimal landing spot for him because coaches know how to use it. You got Trevor Lawrence in there that knows how to throw to a tight end. And all around, it's just a great team for him.
So Tyler Warren is going to be a great prospect. You said 1,200 receiving yards. He also had 200 rushing yards, 12 total touchdowns, and he had a passing TD. Is this guy not a Swiss Army knife? I don't know what is. He's not Brock Bowers, but as far as prospects, he's pretty close to Brock Bowers. And let's not forget, he said during the combine that he loves blocking, and he shows he can be above average in that area. So this guy fills pretty much every need. I would love my Panthers to take him at 8. I don't think they will for a reason we're going to explain in the next segment. But 10 to the Bears would be the ideal spot for him. Like you guys said, a target for Caleb Williams alongside DJ Moore, Rome Odunze. Ben Johnson's the new head coach there, and he's an offensive genius. I think he can maximize Warren's potential. I don't think he makes it past the Bears 10. He's going to be good. So those are our 5 most interesting players. I think we did a good job describing those guys. Let's move on to our NFL burning questions. And this is basically, we each picked one team, and we were tasked with figuring out what's the one question this team needs to answer decisively in the draft. I'm going to go last. Evan, we're going to start with you.
Why will Cleveland not pick a quarterback first? they're not even really entertaining the subject right now. They are really, really sold on Travis Hunter. And the thing is, Deshaun Watson and Joe Flacco, they are both really temporary solutions to a program that needs somebody to lead this franchise. They haven't had anybody good since Baker Mayfield. And even Baker Mayfield, they traded away for, I would say, basically nothing at that point. They could easily go for Shedeur Sanders. If the Titans don't take Cam Ward, they could easily get Cam Ward. They're in such a good spot to be able to get a real franchise quarterback to sell this team back to the fans, to rally the team around him, and to attract other players that would want to play with these types of quarterbacks. Nobody wants to play with any of the quarterbacks they have right now. I mean, they're just okay for where they are. I don't understand why they think that Travis Hunter is going to be the guy to bring them back to anywhere close to a playoff team. But I just don't understand why they're not going to draft a quarterback.
I like Shedeur Sanders.
I think they would too, but they're not talking about it.
And you got to look at Deshaun Watson. He may never wear a Browns uniform again. So he re-ruptured his Achilles and just had surgery. He's done.
Right.
He's done for the year.
Yeah, and they barely signed Joe Flacco back.
And they owe $200 million in guaranteed money to Watson. But
yeah,
the Browns recently announced that buried in his contract was a $60 million insurance policy that will offset some of that cost. So they're still going to owe him well over $100 million in guaranteed money, whether he suits up again. But Watson wasn't even good when he played on the field.
Right.
He really struggled, and they did have some talent around him. He just struggled. So I don't know what they're doing. Conventional wisdom says they should take a quarterback. I just don't think they like Shedeur Sanders. So that's just my take.
I don't think they like anybody for no reason at all. Yeah, I think it's not a great decision by the front house, and it's bad.
The worst part of this is I would really hate to see Travis Hunter go there and then his career just be abysmal like the rest of the entire team.
Yeah. All right, Cam, what's your team and what's their burning question?
We kind of alluded to it a minute ago. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence is in his, 6th year now? At what point is the writing on the wall that he is not the second coming of Jesus? I know when he came in, he was the most hyped prospect since Andrew Luck.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was super, super excited to see how he would excel or succeed in the NFL. And outside of the one game that he came back and beat the Chargers a few years ago in the playoffs, he really has never come into his own and been the quarterback that everyone thought that he would be. The Fighting Greyhound, sadly, just hasn't quite been there. I'm wondering if this could be the year, and Dylan Gabriel may be an ideal candidate, being in like a 3rd or 4th round, to sit on that bench and apply a little bit of pressure. They have a new coach. They have a team that probably wants to start trying to move forward. And I'm wondering if this is the time that they actually start looking to do it.
I mean, they made the playoffs 2 years ago.
They made the playoffs, but they haven't had any success. And even when they have...
With the exception of last year, Trevor Lawrence has had amazing years. Last year was really his only blemish. I mean, you had 4,000 years in 2023, or 4,000 yards in 2023, 4,000 yards in 2022, almost 3,700 yards in 2021. I mean, it's fairly good record.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but how many yards did Baker Mayfield have when he was playing for the Browns? Just because a player does...
I agree that the Browns should not have traded Baker Mayfield either.
It doesn't necessarily translate to wins or that it works for that specific program. They've made the playoffs once or twice in his tenure there at the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think it's once.
Yeah.
That's what matters. I don't care if he has 4,000 yards. If he's not getting them W's, you're not paying him for yards. Otherwise, you can go pay Aaron Rodgers. You're paying for wins.
I think there's still a lot of belief in him, in that organization. I don't think they're giving up on him just yet.
Oh,
So,
I disagree.
I mean, this is supposed to be burning questions, and you just got burned by Evan's stats. So,
Disagree with Evan's stats.
you can't. All right, guys, for mine, I'm going to be a homer. I got the Carolina Panthers. They're committed to, well, first, my question is, do they go with the obvious need on defense, or do they get lured in by the shiny tight end? And what I mean by that is Panthers are committed to Bryce Young for better or worse. He showed a lot of promise in the second half of the season, but he needs more weapons. Enter Tyler Warren. It would be an excellent selection at 8 and would make a lot of sense and would help the offense. But I don't know how much you guys watched the Panthers last year, but historically, they had one of the worst defense in NFL history. In fact, they gave up the most points ever in a season in NFL history. You need to take a defensive guy with your number 8 pick. Travis Hunter will be gone. Abdul Carter will be gone. Mason Graham will likely be gone. That leaves Jalen Walker, the outside linebacker out of Georgia. It just seems like such a logical pick. And the Panthers play a 3-4 defense, and they don't even have outside linebackers to play that scheme. Jadeveon Clowney is an old man. He's a 12-year veteran, and he played that starting role on the edge last season. He's just not going to cut it long term. I think Walker fills an immediate need for them, but my question is, do they get sucked in by the shiny tight end waiting there with the long curly hair that just is saying, take me, take me, take me? Or do smoother heads prevail and they go defense? I think they
I
should go
think
defense.
I think history has shown that they will get sucked in, but that does not mean they should.
You know, Joey, the other linebacker that really sticks out that would be an excellent pickup for them is Jahad Campbell.
Mm. Yeah.
I agree with you, and I think that it would be a really compelling tight end pick. But Jahad Campbell at linebacker for a team that really needs it, I think would be a solid selection as well.
All right, guys. Well, that was our episode. And speaking of things that are compelling, we hope you found this show compelling. Cam, you found the show compelling. What are you doing?
You're going to like our episode. You're going to comment on what you disagree with, because surely you don't agree with everything. And then you're going to subscribe so that you can continue to hear the great decisions that we make on this channel. Thank you.